Hello and welcome to the garden. I'm thinking that I'm just gonna walk you around the front garden and give you a little insight into what it's looking like. Even though the lawn needs to be mowed, there's lots of deadheading that needs to happen. I just want to go ahead and record because I feel like I will let fear or like perfection of the garden allow me to not post anything. And I want to start. So let's start. This is a look at one of the first garden beds that I started, and the hummingbird mint is just blowing in the wind, and I love that. But the real star is the Shasta daisies that are in full bloom, and behind the Shasta daisy there's a catmint that the pollinators love. The peonies have gone over, so I will come back and deadhead those later. Look at these gorgeous, I think that's a Canterbury bell. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's a Canterbury bell. And the primrose over here, look so cute. And then I have my little heuchera there. So here's a look at that bed, which includes the lawn that needs to be mowed. And then right over here in the rose garden, I have these salvia that are just looking gorgeous, especially next to this yellow yarrow. And then I believe that's the caramel delight heuchera. And I have a sedum there that is thriving. And that hydrangea I cut almost back to the ground about maybe 2 months ago. But things are looking gorgeous. So in this bed that I call the mailbox garden, I have this Rose of Sharon that I may or may not cut way back after this season. But in this bed I have my art, my garden art, but just the hellebores and some a hydrangea that my neighbor gave me last year, the Virginia creeper that I let grow up the side, my little greenhouse that I have old screens in from my parents' house because I have a groundhog that is just exactly that, a groundhog. He tries to hog up all the things, and I didn't want him to get to the tomatoes that I have growing in there. I do have my Japanese maple here, looking very cutesy. I love the chartreuse green color. And then there are some geraniums below and a catmint to the left. And let me show you the tomatoes up close. So I do have tomatoes that are planted in a raised garden bed that I have, but these ones I just decided I'm gonna grow them in the greenhouse since they can take a lot of heat. So there are some little, this is a Super Sweet 100, so there are some little tomatoes coming in, which is exciting. And then I need to stake this one up because the stake, it's grown way taller than the stake. Everything is flowering though, so that's awesome. In this bed, I have irises that I've gone over, a mountain mint, a little hanging basket that I created, and I'm forgetting what plant that is on the right in front of the spirea. And then I have the bed that aligns with the fence and the driveway, and there are 3 hydrangea, 3 arborvitae, a couple of dianthus, and then in the back there will be some echinacea that comes up later in the season. Okay, bringing you over to the other side of the garden. So this would be the left side when you enter in through the gate. And this patch is what I call the pink patch. And as you can see, the foxglove are looking gorgeous. And I have another salvia here. That Rose of Sharon, when it blooms, it is a pale pink with a like a deeper pink center. I did add a lady's mantle in here for some texture, but the other things that come up all come up pink, and this is a bee balm that'll come up pink. The Celines, I think that's a Veronica. And then the Weigela is here. She's a pretty girl. This is her first bloom. After this first bloom, I'm gonna cut her back a bit because that's when you're supposed to prune, is after the first spring bloom. So I will prune her back quite a bit since she's taken over the walkway here. The lavender here. Balloon flower, some geranium, a taller phlox. These are all, what are these? They're either coneflowers or black-eyed Susan. Then that euphorbia, that chartreuse and red and the euphorbia I love. And in between the phlox and the euphorbia, I have some dill that I started from seed. Another massive catmint, excuse me. And my wildflower patch that I love. I have some sweet potato vine that I potted up. They're looking like struggle station. Some of them look okay, some of them look like I'm not certain if they'll make it, but we'll see. I have to protect them here because, again, the groundhog. This is the wildflower patch from the other side. I have the milkweed coming up here. Let me show you guys how the peaches are doing. There they go. And then I have some tomatoes here in this raised bed, along with, I think I grew a pepper in there, some old strawberries from last year, and a couple of other things are in there. So here I have my tea green stock, which just has tons of chamomile. There's some sage in there. I threw in a couple of snapdragons on the top for color, and then a pink dandelion, which hasn't bloomed yet. Or maybe it won't this year, I'm actually not certain. Then in my enclosed garden bed area, there are peas, lots of lettuce, which the one on the top, excuse me, the romaine on the top is starting to bolt, I think. I'm gonna go ahead and harvest that today. And I have strawberries on there, some kale, chives, borage, things of that nature. Then I have my strawberries in the pots. I have a bunch of red onion there, which it wasn't until after I did a little bit more research I was reading that you shouldn't put onions really close to peas, I think. Don't take my word for that. I clearly still didn't do enough research. But the red onions are still kind of small under there. They're not bulbing very large. And then on this side, I have a couple of purple pole beans that a friend gave me. And then cucumbers that have started. And I will figure out what I'm going to trellis them with pretty soon, because they're starting to get pretty tall. Lastly, here in the front garden, I have the potted garden, and this part is chaotic because I've moved the pots that I had daffodils and things like that in for spring, and also a bunch of primrose that I want to put into the ground for next spring. So there's a lot of things just kind of being held here for right now. But the spirea, and there are a few other things that always live in this space. But the lawn not being mowed is wild. I'm about to feed the birds before they start yelling at me. But that's the potted garden area. And then I will turn around and just show you that I have this arch. The clematis was growing up the arch, but it has since gone over. I need to hedge the euonymus, and I was putting a lot of my seedlings onto that little wooden structure that you see there. There was a greenhouse cover that I have for it, so in the spring I had a lot of my seedlings on there with it covered.